Kale had never seen a world quite like Earth from his hidden post above the forest canopy. He watched the blue planet breathe winds, moving through trees like whispers, rivers glittering like veins of light. To the alien colonies, this place was only a subject of study. To Kale, it felt alive. He had been trained to view it as a primitive sphere filled with unpredictable creatures, yet the longer he stayed, the less certain he felt about that description. Every sunrise, he recorded the same thing: humans rising early, animals stirring, machines rumbling through distant towns. His scanners followed one location more than others: a small valley with an open field and a quiet pond. There, a girl often came alone, carrying a sketchbook, a pack of pencils, and a thermos of tea. She always sat in the same place, beside the water. Her name, he later discovered through local transmissions, was Lena Hart. At first, Kale observed her the way he observed everything, with precision and distance. She would draw clouds, birds, or sometimes the reflection of stars on the water. Occasionally, she sang softly, her voice trembling but warm. He measured her behavior, her heart rate, the tilt of her head when she thought. His people had no art, no songs, only logic and memory. Watching her felt like studying a language his mind was not built to understand. For weeks he noted her patterns. She came after school, left before nightfall. Sometimes she looked sad, pressing her pencil too hard against the paper. Kale's translator captured fragments of her whispered words. "Maybe one day someone will see it," she would say. "Someone who understands." Kale could not explain the strange pull those words created inside him. His kind did not use the word feeling. They called it signal interference. But it was more than that. He found himself adjusting his sensors to pick up her heartbeat. When she laughed, he turned off his ship's hum so he could listen clearly. One evening, rain clouds rolled in earlier than usual. Lena arrived anyway, holding a small umbrella that barely covered her shoulders. She sat down by the pond and tried to draw, her paper turning soft and gray under the rain. Kale's data panel flickered wide, speeds rising, lightning detected. The storm would be heavy. Protocol required him to retreat deeper underground to avoid detection. But Lena didn't leave. She stayed until thunder cracked close enough to make the trees shiver. When her umbrella broke and the wind threw her sketchbook into the water, she ran after it. Kale felt a sharp impulse and instinct his training had never mentioned. Before he knew it, he was out of the ship. Moving through the storm, he reached her just as she slipped on the wet grass near the edge of the pond. The fall would have dragged her into the cold water, but Kale caught her arm, pulling her back. His hands glowed faintly with the bylight of his species, silver blue against the dark rain. For a moment she froze, staring up at him. The rain streaked across her face, mingling with tears she hadn't realized she shed. Kale stood still. Realizing too late that he had broken the first observation, "Law never let a subject see you." Her voice was quiet, trembling but not frightened. "You're not." "From here, are you?" Kale didn't answer. He couldn't. Words in human language felt too heavy. She took a small step closer instead of away. "Thank you," she whispered. The sound of it struck him harder than the thunder around them. Gratitude. A simple expression. Yet his translators struggled to define it. In his world, there was no concept of thanks-only exchange and obligation. This was different. She offered warmth with no expectation of reward. He released her gently and stepped back into the shadows. Within seconds, his cloaking field re-engaged, and he disappeared into the forest. But her voice remained in his auditory memory, echoing over and over, "Thank you." Back aboard his hidden vessel, Kale tried to record the incident as an error. Subject rescued from environmental hazard to preserve observational continuity, he dictated. Yet when he played the record back, his tone carried something new. The system flagged the entry with a warning: emotional irregularity detected. That night he could not focus on data. His mind kept replaying the moment when her eyes met his wide, searching and unafraid. Humans were supposed to fear the unknown. She had not. Days passed before Lena returned to the pond. When she did, she brought no sketches, no umbrella, just herself. She sat quietly for hours, gazing at the water. Kale's sensors detected her pulse slowing, her breathing calm. Then she spoke softly to the empty air. "I don't know if you can hear me," she said, "but thank you again. I wish I could see you properly." Kale froze. His auditory receptors confirmed she was alone. She was talking to him. Something within him stirred a mix of confusion and quiet satisfaction. He wanted to respond, but any sound might reveal too much. Instead, he activated a nearby drone that caused the pond's surface to ripple in a gentle pattern. She noticed immediately. Her smile was small, uncertain. "So you can hear me." Kale logged the interaction under unverified contact, yet he kept the drone active, creating light movements in the water whenever she spoke. It became their silent form of communication. She would talk about her day. He would make ripples to show he was listening. Through her stories, Kale learned of human life, her struggles at school, her love for drawing, her loneliness since her father left for work far away. She never spoke with bitterness, only quiet hope that he would return one day. Her resilience fascinated Kale. His people avoided pain by avoiding emotion entirely. Humans carried it openly and still found beauty. As the weeks turned into months, Kale realized he anticipated her visits. He adjusted his ship's schedule to remain near the valley. Each time she smiled at the water, its internal energy readings spiked in ways even his diagnostic tools could not explain. One night, when the sky cleared and the stars stretched endlessly above, Lena lay on the grass and pointed upward. "Whoever you are," she whispered, "that's your home, isn't it?" Kale hovered invisibly above her, his cloak flickering faintly under moonlight. He looked toward the same sky and saw the distant cluster of stars where his people lived, cold, orderly, silent. Then he looked down at the human girl tracing constellations with her finger and realized how different her warmth was from the metallic perfection of his own kind. The realization unsettled him. He was no longer observing. He was feeling. And feelings to his race were forbidden. That night, he sent his usual report to command, but hesitated before transmitting. Instead of including her name, he deleted it. Instead of describing humans as unstable, he wrote, "The species displays unexpected harmony with natural systems." Then he paused, staring at the cursor blinking against the dark screen, and added, "Recommendation. Continued observation necessary for accurate assessment." He didn't know why he wrote it. Perhaps because he wanted to stay. Back on Earth's surface, Lena folded another page into her sketchbook. This one showed a vague shape tall, slender, with glowing eyes beneath the rain. She labeled it simply, "The Guardian." Kale's sensors captured the image as she closed the book. He studied it silently, and something close to pride warmed his chest. In her eyes, he was not a threat or a ghost. He was a protector. The forest fell quiet as night deepened. Fireflies glowed along the edge of the pond, their faint light reflecting in the water. Kale watched Lena pack her things and head home, her small lantern swaying in rhythm with her steps. When she disappeared beyond the trees, Kale turned off his monitors and stood by the window of his ship, staring at the world he was supposed to judge. For the first time since arriving on Earth, he felt uncertain about which side of the glass he truly belonged on. Kale's reports had grown quieter. The more he watched Lena, the less he found to say about the rest of Earth. He had arrived with orders to study human behavior, to measure their strength, their danger, and their potential threat to the interstellar order. Yet now, his logs were filled with only one subjector. Days blended into one another. Kale no longer marked time by the movement of moons or by the change of planetary coordinates. He marked it by the hours Lena spent near the pond. She had begun to bring 2 cups of tea, setting one on the stone beside her as if waiting for him. "Just in case you like this flavor," she said one afternoon. Even though she knew he might never drink it, Kale sat cloaked on the branch of a tall tree above her, invisible to human eyes. He watched the steam rise from the untouched cup, wondering what kind of ritual this was. On his world, nourishment was shared only through formal ceremonies, ever as an act of kindness. Here, this small gesture carried more meaning than any data transmission he had ever read. Lena began to speak more openly. She told stories about her school, about the people who teased her for being quiet and strange. "They don't understand," she said softly. "I like being alone. I like listening to things no one else hears." Cale listened to. Every tone in her voice carried energy he could not explain. Her sadness drew him closer. Her laughter created small tremors in his chest. His scanners recorded everything but his heart, though engineered to be steady, began to feel unsteady in return. He tried to remind himself that humans were simply a mission, a case study for the Galactic Council. But late at night, when he replayed her voice in his ship, the sound of it filled the silence in ways no other signal ever had. One evening, Lena stayed later than usual. The sun slipped away, painting the sky in orange and silver. Fireflies flickered along the grass, and the air felt gentle and cool. She looked toward the trees and spoke quietly. "If you're still around," she said, "I want to ask you something." Cale hesitated, then deactivated his cloaking field. His tall frame shimmered into view, the soft glow of his eyes reflecting on the pond's surface. Lena didn't flinch. She only stared, calm and curious, as if she had been waiting all this time. Her voice was steady. "Do you ever get lonely out there? In space?" The question pierced him more deeply than any weapon could. His translators flickered, struggling to find a correct answer. He could have said no. His species didn't feel loneliness. But in that moment, he realized that wasn't true anymore. "Yes," he said finally, his voice low and almost mechanical. "I do." Lena smiled faintly. "Then we're the same." That simple statement made Cale's pulse race. For a being designed without emotion, he was overwhelmed by it now. She asked him many things about his world, his people, the stars beyond their galaxy. He told her what little he could without breaking his oath. She listened with the wonder of a child and the patience of a scholar. Every time she looked at him, Cale felt less like an observer and more like a part of something alive and real. As the night deepened, she shivered slightly. Cale adjusted the field around them, creating warmth without her noticing. He found himself wanting to protect her from even the smallest discomfort. But beyond the stars, his actions did not go unnoticed. On the Galactic Council ship orbiting far from Earth, a signal triggered an Allertone-authorized surface activity detected. Cale's supervisors began reviewing his transmissions. His edited reports, his missing data, the absence of threat warnings, it all raised questions. Commander Nareth, his superior, initiated contact. "Agent Cale 9, your recent records indicate irregular emotional activity and failure to maintain proper observational distance. Explain." Cale froze at the command tone in his communicator. He responded carefully. "No threat detected. Continued observation required?" "Your analysis contradicts others," Nareth replied coldly. "Humans display high emotional volatility. Prepare for recall and evaluation." Kyle's gaze drifted toward Lena, still sketching quietly under the moonlight. The thought of leaving her filled him with an ache he had no word for. "Request denied," he whispered after cutting communication. For the next few days, Cale operated in silence. He reduced transmissions, blocked scanner access, and adjusted his ship's signal signature to avoid detection. Yet deep inside, he knew his time was running short. Lena noticed something was wrong. He seemed more distant, peering less often, speaking less when he did. "Did I do something?" she asked one evening. Cale shook his head slowly. "You did nothing. It is I who has done what I should not." She frowned. "What do you mean?" He looked toward the sky where his kind waited, cold and watching. "My people forbid connection. We are meant only to learn, not to feel." "And what happens if you do?" Cale hesitated. "They erase what was learned." For a moment, Lena said nothing. The night wind carried the soft rustle of trees between them. Finally, she stepped closer. "Then don't let them," she said simply. Her courage surprised him. A being so fragile, living in a world that could destroy her so easily, still stood firm. In that moment, he understood why humanity frightened the galaxy. It wasn't their technology or aggression, it was this spirit, this endless capacity to care, even when it defied reason. Over the next few nights, their meetings became quieter, deeper. Lena taught him small things: how to listen to rain without analyzing its rhythm, how to make tea properly, how to smile without needing a reason. Kale, in return, shared fragments of the stars, how some burned bright for only seconds, yet could light entire skies. One night, she reached into her bag and pulled out a small notebook. "I made something for you," she said, holding it out. Kale took it carefully, his large hands almost trembling. Inside were sketches, some of trees and ponds, others of constellations, and one of him standing in rain, surrounded by light. The page was titled, "My Friend Among the Stars." He stared at the drawing for a long moment before saying, "You honor me." Lena smiled. "No, you inspired me." Her words stayed with him even after she left. That night, Kale stood outside his ship, looking at Earth's horizon. He knew his bond with Lena had changed something fundamental inside him. He was no longer just a watcher of worlds. He was a witness to what it meant to live. But far above, in the Council's war chamber, Kale's name was already under investigation. His emotional interference had been confirmed. A decision was made. The human world would be prepared for evaluation, a term that often meant destruction. Kale's communication system lit up with one final order: return immediately. Mission terminated. He stared at the message for a long time, then closed it without answering. His reflection in the console screen looked almost human, eyes dimmed with conflict, face tired with choices. The next morning, Lena waited by the pond again, her expression hopeful. Kale appeared late, his cloak flickering slightly from damaged power cells. "You're leaving, aren't you?" she asked quietly. Kale lowered his gaze. "They will come. I must try to stop them." "But how?" she asked, her eyes glistening. "By showing them what they refuse to see," he said softly. She took a step closer, her voice breaking. "I don't understand all of this, Kale, but I know you're not like the others. You see us the good parts, the small things that matter. Maybe that's enough." Kale looked at her for a long time, memorizing every detail, the faint curls in her hair, the determination in her eyes, the way she stood even when afraid. "If they erase me," he said, "promise me you'll keep drawing." "I will," she whispered. He extended his hand, glowing faintly. Lena reached out, touching his fingers lightly. The energy field shimmered between them, warm and bright, wrapping their hands in silent light. For a moment, they stood in stillness, two worlds meeting through trust alone. Then Kale stepped back, his voice low. "Goodbye, Lena." She shook her head. "No, just see you again." Kale smiled for the first time, a small, fragile smile, and vanished into the light. The sound of his ship faded into the clouds, leaving only the soft hum of wind and the rustle of leaves behind. Lena stood there, clutching her sketchbook to her chest, unaware that her quiet goodbye had already started to change the fate of worlds. Above the atmosphere, Kale entered stealth orbit. His ship's warning lights flashed red and command messages flooded his screen, but he ignored them all. His mission was no longer about data or duty. It was about truth, about one human girl who showed him what it meant to feel. Kale's ship drifted in the upper layers of Earth's sky, hidden behind clouds and static. His control panels glowed with endless warnings, orders from his command repeating the same words again and again: return immediately. Mission terminated. He ignored them. From the window, could see Earth's bellow soft blue light scattered across the continents, clouds curling like threads of silver. It was peaceful, unaware of what waited above. Beyond his small ship, a dark shadow loomed: the Council fleet, massive and cold. They had arrived earlier than he expected. Kale's hands tightened around the edge of the console. He knew what would happen next. The fleet would scan the planet, find traces of emotional instability, and label humanity as a potential danger. Then the Council would decide Earth's fate from a place of fear, not understanding. He could still leave. If he returned now, they might erase his memories, but they would spare him punishment. Yet every time he closed his eyes, he saw Lena, her soft smile, her courage, the way she had whispered "thank you" that rainy night. Kale had observed thousands of life forms in his service, but none had changed him as she did. Humanity, he realized, wasn't dangerous because of its anger or ambition. It was dangerous because it could love, because even in fear, it reached for hope. He couldn't let that be destroyed. Kale began rewriting his mission report one last time. He deleted all earlier data, replacing it with what he now knew to be true. Humanity is not a threat. They are flawed, yet they seek harmony. They suffer, yet they dream. They destroy, yet they create again. They are not to be feared. They are to be understood. He attached memory images: Lena's laughter, her drawings, the light in her eyes as she spoke of stars. Each was proof of the kind of beauty his people had long forgotten. When the message finished compiling, Kale transmitted it directly into the Council's core channel. The system protested with warning tones: authorized transmission, treason offense, but he sent it anyway. Then he opened a private channel to the Council ship. The holographic image of Commander Nareth flickered before him, tall and rigid, his silver armor gleaming. "Kale 9, Nareth said sharply, "you have broken direct orders. Explain your actions." Kale met his superior's cold gaze. "Observation completed. Conclusion: humanity must live." "Impossible," Nareth replied. "They are unpredictable. They could one day challenge the balance." Kale's voice stayed calm. "Maybe, but unpredictability is not danger, it is potential." For a long moment, Nareth said nothing. Then his tone hardened. "You are infected. You let their emotions corrupt you. Your data will be erased, and the planet will be sterilized." Kale ended the transmission. His ship trembled as the fleet began to charge their observation arrays machines that would scan Earth's surface. Searching for any signal of intelligent resistance, he knew he had only one option left to protect the world. Long enough for his message to reach the outer colonies. Once the truth spread, others would question the Council's actions. Maybe then, humanity would have a chance. He reprogrammed his vessel's field generators, redirecting their power toward Earth's atmosphere. The systems flickered weakly. His small ship wasn't built for defense. Still, he engaged the field, creating a layer of energy that would scramble the fleet's scans temporarily. Down below, the quiet town near the forest, Lena awoke to a strange light outside her window. The sky shimmered like a curtain of color-soft waves of blue and gold rolling across the night. She stepped outside, barefoot on the grass, and felt the air hum with electricity. She didn't know why, but she whispered his name. Kale. In orbit, Kale heard her through the faint resonance of his communicators, still tuned to her signal frequency. Her voice steadied him. He smiled slightly and whispered back, though she couldn't hear, "It's all right." Then his ship began to shake violently. The fleet was responding, redirecting power to pierce through his interference field. His systems overloaded, alarms filling the cabin with red light. The field would fail in minutes. Kale knew what that meant. The Council would see everything: the town, the forest, the girl by the pond. And once they marked her location, they would begin their cleansing process. He couldn't allow that. He rerouted the last of his energy reserves into one final transmission. This time, not toward the Council, but toward the galactic record. A network that archived every discovery for all civilizations to access. His words would be permanent, impossible to erase. He spoke slowly, clearly. "To whoever finds this, humanity is not to be destroyed. They are mirrors of what we once were: curious, brave, and full of light. If you ever doubt their worth, remember the name Lena Hart. She showed me that compassion is the highest form of intelligence." The transmission sent. Kale looked down at Earth one last time. His ship's lights dimmed. He pressed his hand to the window, tracing the shape of the countenance he had come to love. Below, Lena stood at the edge of the pond. The water reflected the strange light from above. She clutched her sketchbook tightly, feeling tears form, though she didn't fully understand why. Something deep inside her whispered that Kale was up there, doing something no one else could see. "Please," she murmured to the sky, "come back safe." The fleet's energy pulse struck moments later, not at Earth, but at Kale's ship. The interference field shattered. The ship spun, losing altitude, its engines burning with white fire. Alarms screamed. Kale's fingers flew over the controls, redirecting power, trying to stabilize descent. He managed to steer away from populated zones, heading toward the open ocean. His systems failed, one by one: navigation, propulsion, shields. But as the ship fell through the clouds, he wasn't afraid. He had sent the message. The truth was out there now, and down below, Lena saw a streak of light falling toward the horizon. It wasn't like a shooting star. It was brighter, slower, alive with color. She whispered his name again, voice breaking, Kale. The light vanished beyond the distant sea. For days. Global news spoke of the strange aurora and the unidentified object that fell into the ocean. Scientists offered explanations: satellite debris, meteor fragments, but none could explain the patterns of light that danced above the water for hours afterward. Lena knew. Deep inside, she felt it. Kale had done something to protect them. Weeks passed. She returned to the pond every evening, sitting in silence, watching the stars. Sometimes she spoke softly, as if to someone beside her. "You said you'd show me your world one day," she would whisper. "Maybe now you're part of ours instead." One night, as she opened her sketchbook to draw the stars again, she noticed something glimmering near the rocks. She walked closer and found a small metallic object half buried in the grass, a smooth emblem shaped like a teardrop, glowing faintly with blue light. Her breath caught. She knew that glow dot. It was Kale's insignia. She held it tightly, feeling a gentle warmth spread through her palms. The emblem pulsed once, and then a small holographic image flickered above it: Kale's face, calm and faintly smiling. His voice came softly through the static. "If you are hearing this, it means I kept my promise. The sky is watching, but it will not harm you. You showed me what it means to care. Keep drawing, Lena. The universe will need your eyes." The message faded, leaving her in silence. Tears slid down her cheeks, but she was smiling. She pressed the emblem to her heart and looked toward the stars. From that night on, Lena's sketches changed. Her drawings of forests and ponds grew into vast cosmic scenes, worlds filled with light, bridges between species, messages of peace written in her own quiet style. Years later, those drawings would be shared around the world, inspiring others to look up at the stars not with fear, but with wonder and far beyond the Milky Way. In the archives of 1,000 civilizations, Kale's final message spread through the interstellar network. Some dismissed it as an error, others as a curiosity. But a few paused to listen. They replayed the part where his voice, once cold and mechanical, softened as he spoke of Earth. They are not perfect, but they are worth saving. That single line began a slow change across the stars. Observation units started reevaluating their own missions. Some even dared to speak to the worlds they studied. Kale's defiance became a quiet legenda, a reminder that understanding could be stronger than control. On Earth, Lena lived a long, quiet life near the same forest where it all began. Every night, she left her window open and watched the sky, searching for any sign of that familiar blue light. And though she never saw his ship again, she sometimes felt a soft glow on the horizon, like the reflection of someone watching back. When she grew older, people often asked why she believed there was kindness beyond the stars. She would only smile and say, "Because once, someone from there believed in us first."